everybody. Springtime 2021, Season 3 Great Lakes Bonsai. Welcome back. Never thought I'd get to Season 2, by the way. I just started this as a way to document my trees so I could go back in 10 years and look at how they're doing. Threw a couple online, and sure enough, we got some comments and suggestions, so I appreciate all the feedback you give me. Definitely not as exciting of a spring premiere this year as Boston Bonsai Idiot. Check his channel out if you haven't already. Quite a reveal at the end of his spring premiere video. I won't spoil it, but definitely watch it until the end. Wanted to give you some updates on trees. We've got progressions on trees you've seen in the past, but I want to talk a little bit about spring here in Michigan. We're in 6A. It's been an up and down year, as it is every year. We had like 2 weeks in early March, which is way early for us, where it was 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, so well above freezing, and then the nights for 2 weeks were above freezing. That means we have been doing a lot of the Bonsai two-step and the Bonsai shuffle. If you're not familiar with this term, then good for you. I'm jealous. Our last freeze date when it's safe to plant veggies is normally Mother's Day, so about May 10 or 11 this year, and so we're not out of the woods yet. He wasn't even close to out of the woods. But after 2 weeks of below normal temperatures, hope arrived. I think we made it. I think last night was our last frost, but it's a day of celebration today for sure. And I'm just excited to get the trees out in this garden and actually put them in their final spots for a full growing season and not have to worry about bringing them in and out of the garage every night or covering the ones that I have Jimmy rigged back here with cold frame setups. Protecting those trees that have already budded out that are deciduous and have that very fine, delicate foliage in the spring, and then protecting those trees that have been repotted, that have their roots now losing their winter hardiness. Considering it's the last time I'm doing it this year, I wanted to just quick document it for you to show you what I do. Bonsai two-step, Bonsai shuffle is not the greatest, but it is what it is. So let's talk about some trees, talk about some progressions. This one next to me, hopefully you recognize from the collecting video last fall. This is an American larch collected from a bog. And isn't it a beautiful sight to see these paintbrushes coming out for spring? That means it survived. I think we're pretty much out of the woods at this point because it looks like it's going to put on a secondary flush of growth. Seeing that it did make it through the winter is really encouraging and fun to see. And the little Thuya occidentalis over here, by the way, is still doing fine too. Looks like it's going to start budding out soon. So fun update on the larch. We're not going to touch it this year, and then we'll be styling it in spring of 2022 and definitely doing some pruning. You can see I've got some extensions that go off to the right hand side here that I'm probably not going to use. So we're going to take that off, and the apex is going to be one of these shoots coming off of the trunk that swerves over to the left hand side. So more to come on this larch, but wanted to give you an update that it did survive. All right, sticking with the larch theme, this is the second out of the 3 that survived. This is my beam pole, but I do argue it has some good subtle movement. Hopefully you can tell on the screen right now, this way, that way, finish up to the left at the end. And all that foliage is on the left-hand side, as I noted in the collecting video. So maybe something wind-influenced, wind-swept-ish. Lots of spring growth. And yeah, I'm just happy with it. The bark's beautiful. This came out of that cedar stump, if you remember, in the swamp. So let this one grow, and then we'll go ahead and style it in 2022. Same story as the other larch. All right, you've seen this one before. This is my crabapple. Grew great last year after we did all that root work on it. If you recall, brutal circling roots, ton of cleanup to do. And I thought, hey, with a strong growing season behind it, now is the time to go back in and try and get some back budding. So I had that really ugly straight section that was coming from this spot where it creates a lot of inverse taper with our primary apex here. And I thought chopping that when buds were breaking would be a perfect time to maybe get some back buds induced here. Didn't happen. Did not happen. So we've got to learn from that. I don't know what the trick is with crabs and back budding, But I can tell you what I'm going to do, and that is probably get rid of this section of inverse taper. And so we're going to try and do a through graft with one of the suckers that's growing up here. So I've got one already starting here down at the base. That will come up here, harden off, and next spring we'll actually bend that and wire it, take the drill, pick our spot, and have a through graft coming through the other side. The idea is to let that take as the new apex and then chop right here, right at that bud and at that graft, so that we can eliminate that inverse taper and have a new apex coming off to your right and then back to the left. For now, I'm going to keep this extra trunk over here and let that thicken up and grow. I still like the idea of this with the lean this way as a twin trunk tree, but we'll see long term. We got a lot of work in front of us. We got to get this grown out this year, graft it through 2022, see if the graft takes, and then we can talk about potentially making that chop long term. So quick update on the crab. Long way to go. All right, this one you've only seen about 300 times. This is my Big Dawn redwood. You can see I've done some wiring over on the right-hand side with these kind of sloping down. Again, kind of an alpine feel that we're going for. I did have some issues with the bark last year, a little bit rotting off near this deadwood. And we may extend this all the way up. I don't know yet. I may carve this out the rest of the way, or I may let this continue to grow, bark up, and take over. We'll have to see. I think I noted for you that this big root down here actually was dead. So that was dead when I got the tree, but I didn't realize it at first, and last year that bark was so rotted that I took it off and sealed this up. The other thing I did on this tree is some grafting. So I was not successful with getting back budding in the right spots. I want to move off to the right in here. So what I ended up doing is grafting a branch around and through to be our new apex, and that apex will show up right in this area. I can then take this up the rest of the way. We're leaving this apex up here right now to grow over the wounds that are in this area. I don't want to cut that back right now and rely on that freshly grafted branch because it hasn't taken yet, but some new techniques that I'm trying out, and hopefully that graft takes. You can see that there's about 6 or 7 fronds on this side of the graft, so hopefully that extends and eventually merges and takes as a new branch. I also grafted another branch on over here. This one down low actually would be our primary branch that comes over to the left-hand side. Same situation, hopefully that takes 6 or 7 fronds, needs to extend, needs to merge with the plant material in there and eventually become a new branch. So those roots are going to be an issue though long term. This dead root here, I may need to do some root grafting, but this one is getting closer and closer by the year to being a finished bonsai, and I just love it. So I had to give you an update on the Dawn. All right, let's wrap it up with a little baby European hornbeam. I like this tree a lot. I'm definitely favoring the American hornbeam since it's native. I'm trying to stick to native as much as possible for future bonsai, but I do like the European hornbeam. Beautiful spring growth on it. I took the trunk way back this spring and favored that new apex, wired it up. This one needs to go back in the ground at some point, but my ground growing operation is on pause, and that's because we're looking for a new house, looking for an upgrade, not to leave the area, but just a little bit more space. I can't wait for that. I've got all these dreams of monkey poles and bonsai benches and landscaping and how I'm going to create this bonsai paradise, right? But in the meantime, I have some footage from this spring from a collecting trip I did. Went and got an American hornbeam and an American beech. Definitely going back to that property in the future. It's absolutely awesome, so I can't wait to bring you that. And then some trident maple work that I did. Took a 10-foot tree as part of the plan to get everything into a container. A 10-foot tree growing in the ground on a tile, and it was crazy how much the root base had thickened up, so I'm going to show you that too. But in the meantime, just be well. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and have a great spring, and we'll talk to you soon.